now. Excellent. Thank you very much for the chat that we just had offline. I'm just going to make another attempt at saying your name. Awotipe.
Awotipe, yeah, Adedayo. Yeah,
Awotipe.
that's my name.
We have just met the first time. My name is Sam, and I'm very excited to have the next part of our conversation. We've just been talking about your job as a teacher of clinical sciences for physiotherapy students in Nigeria. We've also talked about your experience as a clinical physiotherapist working in the community with different injuries that you've been treating. You also got me very excited when you spoke about your PhD research, where you've actually looked at, or you're looking at, the way of measuring pain and how pain can be treated with different types of exercise, static exercise and dynamic exercise. This is actually something that I've done a lot of research in myself, and we've talked briefly about the way that language and words and expectations can change the way that we feel and change the amount of pain that we experience as well. We briefly touched on the AI super race that is being had in research
Yeah.
throughout the world, and we also referred just recently to the master's research that you did on psychometric analysis of Microsoft Xbox Kinect. Measurements of lumbar range of movement. So that's the lower back flexibility, I suppose we could say, for those who don't speak physiotherapy. Walter, the relationship between you and me is very new, and so for everyone else out there, I just want to give them an idea as to what we're going to be talking about today, because it could go in all sorts of different directions. You and I get very excited about these ideas, and I want to make sure we're really focused on the conversation. The first message that I sent to you when we connected was to say that I'm looking to find or become the world's best physio. And I know that Nigeria is going to have the second largest population in the world within the next few decades. And so there's a good chance that the world's best physio is either in or will one day be in Nigeria, or maybe another African country. So I'd love you to help me find the world's best physio, or maybe you can help me become the world's best physio. And and I would also like to talk about this vision that I have of giving every human on this planet and on the next planet access to world-class physiotherapy at near zero cost. That is the mission of the world's best physio. World-class physiotherapy accessible by every person on this planet
Every
and the
person,
next
yeah.
planet at near zero cost. So I mean, what do you want to talk about today? What's most exciting for you about these ideas?
You're setting a very massive you're projecting into the future. And when you do that, you we're thinking differently from an average human, because everybody wants to just go to work, treat some patient, treat some pain, and back. Nobody cares. Yesterday, I was reading a page, and it was talking about we have about 1 billion people now with obesity. And I was like, wow, like nobody cares, because if
Mm,
we have more people coming together, people from all walks of life. Okay, let's do this together. Let's
mm,
do that together. Let's get ahead of time. Things can be better. I think it's a very good dream, and international collaborations are actually very necessary for this kind of course. And another thing I understand is physiotherapists have a lot to do. A lot to do. We have populations going into, the AI, where, we have more people doing less of the work and
mm,
more machines doing the
mm,
work. So
mhm,
it's actually, something we have to work on. It's actually something we have to, you know, be proactive about.
mm,
We look into the future and we see what can we do to save the future? What can we do to make our life better? What can we do to make the community better? Now,
mm.
regarding the providing the services at a free cost.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know how
Near free cost. Not
near
free,
free
but
cost.
near free cost.
Near free cost. It's actually a very good dream, but we have different school of thought. Some believe you cannot get something quality when you don't have all the big inputs.
Mm,
Some of the best schools have some of the highest payments. Do you understand
mm,
now? Some of the best hospitals have some of the highest payments. We have a lot
mm.
of Africans going outside the country for physiotherapy services. All our football players, I can convincingly say, only few of them have access to Nigerian physiotherapists. Some of them see
Okay.
physiotherapists outside the country. They
Wow.
have, international physiotherapists. You can look at Mikel. I don't like mentioning names because I don't want to take
Sure.
anybody personal.
Sure, sure.
You can talk about big stars. Some of
But the
them you can
idea is
call
that
them.
the
Yeah,
most elite players in Nigeria, the
yes,
ones
we
that
have
have the
big players.
resources to get
Yes,
whoever they want as
yeah,
their physiotherapist,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
choosing to go outside of
yeah.
Nigeria.
And they have the money. So even if I have the money, I can hire international physiotherapists to, make my treatment for me or provide the treatment for me. We have,
Right.
you know, a lot of graduates. We have a lot of people providing the services, but
Yeah.
at that cost, I might not want to agree with you, but I think it is possible because when people come together, a lot of things do happen. I would not
Mm,
rule it out that you cannot have that treatment. Another way that I think the direction should have gone is this: you can focus on the provision of services,
hmm.
not just by treatment. Services can be by information because
Uh-huh.
information is power. You have the information, then you've done a lot of work. Because when you give people information, their lives get better.
Mm,
Recently we had the World Hearing Day. Speech, occupational speech therapists,
yes.
audiologists, and others. They have the World Hearing Day. They
Yes.
focused on that information. Some people are not aware. A lot of people put loud music in their ear. They are not even aware they're causing a damage. So
Right.
a lot of people don't exercise. There is a professor we live together, Professor Laogun. Professor M.O.B. Olaogun is a popular professor in Nigeria.
Hmm.
We go out every morning. The man is almost probably 70 years old or probably close. Is he either 70 or close? We go
Hmm.
out every morning, do a little bit of work.
Mm.
Even if he has back pain, you were like, no, 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 I still have to do this. It's
He's
not
very
always
active.
easy, but yeah, it's very, very active.
I
Even
actually
at that
on
age.
this, you mentioned the World Hearing Day and how we can damage our ears. I'm very conscious of this because I actually, so long story short, my main work is I'm the principal physiotherapist for Exercise Thought, which is based out of Lilydale in Australia. And the the main way that I do that when I'm traveling is that I'll have these headphones on, and I'll be speaking with my team on Zoom like we are now, or I'll use
Okay,
Facebook
okay.
Messenger, or I'll have a phone call. So I actually have these headphones in about 30 to 40 hours a week, and I'm very conscious of my hearing. And I've this device that I've got on my wrist, it actually measures sound, and it will give me a warning if there is something really noisy. So there were two examples recently. I jumped into a swimming pool, and when you jump
Uh,
into a swimming pool and
yeah,
you want
there's
to
this
make
rush of sound,
as,
water. Yeah.
as a rush of water, right? And I was trying to create a big rush of water because I wanted to make a big splash, and this big rush of water then registered 95 decibels on my watch. And then I was at church the next week, and the music was being played very loudly.
Yeah.
And it's not normally that loud, and I haven't been to that church for a very long time, so I don't know if that's normal, but it registered 90 decibels. And so I think it's important that we have this technology, and this is part of what we're going to talk about today. Is it's not just about having Awotipe and Sam in the same room
Yeah.
doing physiotherapy, skin to skin massage and exercises and whatnot. Sometimes it's about information through technology. And if that's a conversation that we have that we can then record and share with the whole world, fantastic. If that's a device that will measure our pain or a device that will measure our physical health, then that we can use that. And this is one of the ways in which I can see the whole world getting access to world-class physiotherapy at near zero cost, because the number of people who own phones and watches is increasing
Well, yeah,
significantly every year. The
significantly
number of people who access the internet increasing significantly,
every
exponentially
year.
every year. And the number of resources that are online is increasing. However, as you would agree, not all the information is good quality information.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Yeah.
And part of my priority is that this has to be world-class physiotherapy. This can't just be the most famous physiotherapist because that's where all the Nigerian footballers go. It can't just be the most expensive physiotherapist because that doesn't mean the best outcomes. And what I'm very passionate about is world-class physiotherapy is world-class outcomes. It means if you can see me one time, or you can have this device, or you can and I'm not selling Apple products, by the way. Like I have no interest in promoting this product outside of my passion for this really. Then I want you to be able to get the best outcome at very low cost. So we're going to touch back on these things. You mentioned the provision of services versus the provision of information, sedentary lifestyles being a problem and very much related to obesity, and how we need to be proactive when we look into the future and when we aspire to make our communities better. But first, I have to ask you these questions, Awotipe. These are three questions that we ask everyone on this exploration, this adventure that we are, which is called the world's best physio. The first is, are you the world's best physio?
I would say no.
Okay.
And why I would say no is not because or probably I would say maybe in the process. I'm not there. I've just practiced for 10 years. I can't compare myself to somebody else who has practiced 40 years or
Okay.
somebody who has practiced, more years because experience also matters.
It does.
Um, you can actually have um, physiotherapists thinking or aligning their thoughts towards that line. That
Mm,
makes them better, gives them a
yes.
sense of, something to look forward to.
Right.
Gives them a sense of, okay, look, let me give you an example, a very classical
Please.
example. I have the HCPC license, and I decided to still add some other licenses, despite the fact that I have my home country license.
Hmm.
Now I have the New Zealand license. I have the Afra license.
Hold on.
Now I'm
Which
doing
is your
that.
home country?
Nigeria. I'm in Nigeria.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm
So your home
actually
country,
from
so
Nigeria.
you're
So
qualified
I
to
have
practice
my
in
own country
Nigeria?
license.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have the HCPC to practice in the UK, and I
Okay.
have the New Zealand license, and I have
Okay.
the Australian license.
So we can work
So
together.
now, so now, all these are not just to get the license just because I needed them.
Mm,
It's just to broaden my scope, to give me
yes.
another lease of life, to give a voice. Give, for example, if I go online now, have a very big program and they're trying to ask me a question and I'm like, okay, I have this and that. They're like, oh, but when you tell them you have this, you have that, they're like, wow, we're interested in you. What do you have to say?
Do you know how
Because if
these
you
licenses work during online consultations of what to pay? For example, I had a client, he contacted me from India and we did a video
okay,
consultation while he was in India. I've seen other clients from while they are in Canada and we've done video consults. Yeah, I'm in Australia for all of these and um, sometimes I'm in Denmark, but most of the time Australia. New Zealand as well, Indonesia, Guatemala. So, like, do you know how these licenses actually work? If I'm an Australian qualified physiotherapist, and soon I'll be qualified to practice in Denmark as well. Does that mean that I can treat someone who's living and physically in another country?
the licenses work when you're on ground mostly.
Okay.
Although you can, depending on the regulatory body, some regulatory body may require, maybe they do some interviews, get some
Mm,
information for you. Those informations are important,
right, right.
maybe to their patients, talking about their health. Like, for example, we had the
Yeah.
COVID-19.
Yes.
We could not reach people, and we still have to provide treatments.
So I would
I was
love to hear
personally
how
at
you
the
did physiotherapy during COVID because I've got
yes,
my own
I
experience and
was,
I'd
I
love to
was,
tell you how we did it.
yes,
How did you do it?
it's very interesting. You want to know my experience. I was actually on ground at the COVID center,
Yeah.
where we have the isolation hospital, although we have few number of patients, maybe in their hundreds,
Yeah.
and sometimes maybe in their tens. So we were able to treat them physically, although we were wearing all the gears, at
Hmm.
Ibadan, there's a disease infection center,
You're wearing
sponsored by the Oyo
masks
State government.
and gloves
Yes,
and
and everything.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Now, apart from that, we also had, the virtual, method of contacting your patient. You can call them on a video call,
Hmm.
explain, make some things clear to them. We
Yeah,
have different categories of patients. We have those
yes,
that have the high risk, we have those that have the low risk, and we
yes,
have
of
those
course.
that are just symptomatic. Some that are symptomatic and those that are asymptomatic.
Of course.
So technology has actually, just like what you've been saying, technology
Yeah.
has actually bridged the gap, between the treatment. But talking about registration and licensing body, it is best to be on ground. The training might be that when I come to Australia, there might be like you have the Alpha registration, they have the limited registration, they have the general registration. So the limited
Yes.
registration can
Yes.
still provide the supervisory role,
It does.
within a period of time.
Yes.
So
I'm
we have
about
a
to
lot of
start a supervision period myself, which I'm looking forward to because I love being a student. I love learning, and I want to bring us back to the main questions that I need to ask you before we get carried away because you and I we
kind
get
of
excited about these things. Um, but briefly, before I bring us back to those questions, I want to share the way that we practice physiotherapy during COVID because it was a really interesting time. We have lots of students who come to our clinic in Lilydale. There are 165 students that have been educated by Exercise Thought in the last 4 years. And the way that we did this during COVID, because as you may know, there was a restriction on the number of people who could be within a space. For us, the restriction was 4 square meters per person. And we could not fit a student into the room with this restriction. So we had the student on a Zoom conversation, like you and me now, and we put the
yeah.
laptop in the room so that the students could talk with the physiotherapist and with the patient, and we could share together. And we actually found this was very effective because the students, they could do research. If a Awotipe comes in with lower back pain, the student can do some research during the consult and then can say to the physiotherapist, hey, I found an exercise that I think would be really good in relieving the back pain for a Awotipe or in preventing the back pain from coming back. Is this a good exercise? And then the physiotherapist can say, thank you very much to the student. That's a great exercise. I didn't think of that myself. Maybe the physiotherapist didn't think of it themselves. We're going to include this in the treatment
The
so that this
management.
person gets a better outcome. Also, the students, they could write the treatment notes. They could write the notes describing what happened in the consultation, which is good experience for the student. And it also saves the physiotherapist some time. Of course, the physiotherapist is responsible for reading the note and making sure it is accurate. Um, but this is how we used technology during COVID to give students a good education so that they could graduate at the end of their course and also give a good experience for clients because they have two people looking after them. We actually had 5 or 6 students on Zoom for
Yeah.
some of the consultations. And of course, it made life easier for the physiotherapists as well. And I would like to continue doing this, but one of the problems that we have at the moment is that some of the universities believe it's better for students to not be on Zoom, to have physical placements.
Contact. Yeah.
Yeah, but there are some advantages of working together in the way that I've described. So I'll bring us back to our main questions. You said that you are not currently the world's best physio, but you maybe you are becoming. You are on the way to being the world's best physio. Maybe when you've got some more years experience. And so I have to ask you, who is, in your opinion, the world's best physio today?
Um, Objectively, we have names. I've actually searched that online. I saw some names, series of names and what they've done.
Hmm.
Um, it is actually subjective.
Mm.
I wouldn't say those names represent, the objective assessment. I feel
Mm.
that um, in each area or in each location, you
Hmm.
can actually have people that are frontiers.
Hmm.
Give, for example, if you ask a monkey to come and swim, he's going to do poorly. And if you ask a fish to come and climb the tree, he's going to do poorly.
You've
So,
reminded me of what Albert
yeah,
Einstein said about
yeah,
intelligence. He said if you measure the intelligence of a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will think that it's dumb. And this is exactly what the monkey fish analogy
yeah.
demonstrates. Okay, so
So
you would say that the world's best physio could be the person who's on a list of names, but it could also depend on which
subjective.
frontier, which
Which
area of
area? Yeah,
expertise.
yeah,
Yeah.
they have.
And I think sometimes it also depends on the client, the person receiving physiotherapy. If Awotipe has a sore shoulder, or Sam has a sore left ear, or whatever the
Yeah.
situation, the best physiotherapist is going to be the physiotherapist who can help that situation
Within that period of time. Yeah.
within that period, and within that period of time. Yes, because if you are very popular as a physiotherapist and I cannot get an appointment with you for another week or another month, then you are not the best
Well,
physiotherapist because you can't help in that period of time. And so this is why my definition of world's best physiotherapist is the physiotherapist who can provide the whole of humanity with world-class physiotherapy at near zero cost, because I believe that objectively that would be better than anything else. So
I agree. I think that.
that's the vision. But I mean, you seem to think maybe it's not possible to be world class and to provide world class for the whole of humanity, because if we're going to provide the right information, if we're going to provide the right services, then that needs to be more individualized, yeah?
Yeah, yeah, individualized care. Yeah. You
So how do
cannot
you,
have,
how is it
like, for
possible?
example, it's like asking who is the best president.
Well,
To a
that's easy.
Russian,
That's easy.
if you ask a Russian who is the best president, he's not likely to say the US president. So it's subjective.
It's
It's
subjective.
actually very subjective. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can agree with that. And I part of my hope with World's Best Physio is that some people realize that uh, if they are a physiotherapist who is in their first month of working, or maybe they are a physiotherapy student listening to this, looking forward to working in the future, they should know that they can be the world's best physiotherapist for that
Definitely.
person at that time.
At that time. Wow.
Um, However, my definition is not that person at that time. My definition is that person, that time, and also every other person and every other time around the whole world, because of technology and because of information. Um, for example, let me tell you how this might work. And I want you to tell me how this would work in Nigeria, because I know Nigeria is not Australia. And you're a Nigerian, I'm an Australian. So I'm hoping that you can give a Nigerian perspective. So my hope, my plan is that Microsoft or Apple or
Okay.
Amazon or one of these big technology companies,
Giants, yeah.
that they will say, we're going to develop an app, or we are going to purchase the software, purchase the intellectual property for an app that provides physiotherapy. And the app will work something like this. I hope my watch does not listen to me when I say this. I hope it's just a demonstration. I will say, "Hey Siri," or "Hey Alexa," or "Hey Google," and then the device will say, "What's up, Sam?" And I'll say, "Why does my back hurt?" And my watch will say, "Well, Sam, I've read all of the research on back pain, and I understand the most significant risk factors for lower back pain in Australian people who are 31 years of age and who are male. And I understand from your movement, because I'm measuring your movement, that you have been sitting down a lot more this week compared to what you normally sit down. And I know also that you're walking less than what you normally do, because I can measure your walking as well. And from this personalized information, I can combine that with what I've read on the scientific literature, this global information, and I put them together and I say the main reason that your back hurts, Sam, is that you are sitting down for 2 hours extra every day compared to what you normally do. I believe that lumbar discogenic pain, maybe you have some sciatic symptoms. I believe that lumbar discogenic pain is the most likely diagnosis. Your prognosis, Sam, is very good because you are young. This is the first time that your back has hurt. And you're not telling me that you have any sciatic pain down your leg. However, can you please confirm to me, do you have any sciatic pain going down to your leg? And you can imagine how the conversation continues.
Yeah, yeah.
And this AI, with personalized information, plus the global scientific information, can provide, I believe, accurate diagnosis because IBM, they had their program called Watson. I think that was more than 10 years ago now. IBM's Watson demonstrated that it can diagnose more accurately than actual doctors. And AI, the wearable technology we have, access to the internet and access to these internet connected devices, I think that's how it's going to work. So, I mean, you tell me, how is it going to work in Nigeria?
Let me pick the answers one by one.
Mm.
I see physiotherapy as a profession that is unique.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'll say that is this. Many people around the world believes, physiotherapy is about using gadgets, using this, using that.
Mm.
They are actually very important in the management, but it is not the key. The main thing for a physiotherapist is your hand. And it does a lot, as a physical therapist.
Mm.
I think it will get to a point whereby engineering fields, is going to be challenged.
Mm.
Many fields are going to be challenged because there's going to be a race. The
Mm.
AI is there, you're there. How do you
Mm.
work?
Mm.
But physiotherapy profession is going to stand out at a point
Mm-hmm.
because there will be one or two things
Mm-hmm.
that AI may not. I'm not saying it can't or may not. It's going to be having a limitation. Do you
Yeah.
understand now? It's going to do it. It's going to do the work. If I ask AI this, let me give you an example, classical example.
Please give me an
If
example.
I have back pain, just like what you said, if I have back pain and I pretend as if, I'm having an abnormal movement,
Mm-hmm.
the AI detects that I'm having an abnormal movement
Okay.
when I'm not, it's going to have false positive, you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's going to give treatment.
Okay.
Do you understand now? Let's
I
say it's
understand what
going
you're
to give
saying.
treatment. Let's say it's giving treatment in terms of lumbar traction to somebody who does not have
Hold
pain.
on, the AI
You
is going to
understand
give
now?
lumbar traction. How can AI give
No,
lumbar
no,
traction?
I'm just saying, let me just say the AI gives a false positive diagnosis. I'm just
Okay.
trying to give a
Okay.
scenario.
Okay. Okay.
Like if the AI gives a false positive diagnosis and
Ah,
the AI feels that, okay, you need a traction. Do you understand? Now, well, that's why I'm
if
trying
the
to say, I'm
AI
not
makes
saying it
the
cannot
wrong
work.
diagnosis, then the AI is
Yes,
going to
that's
recommend the wrong
the part.
treatment.
Who is going to, yes, who is going to, but if it is actually the physiotherapist, that may likely be prevented. The,
Mm,
um,
mm.
I'm not ruling out the role of technology. Technology plays very crucial role in management, in
Uh-huh.
treatment. We have a lot of devices.
Yes.
Even the electrical stimulation I've seen, I don't know how many brands I've seen out there. I've made some,
I
search
mean, you're doing
online.
your PhD in technology,
Yes,
right?
yes. I've seen a lot of search
Yeah,
online.
yeah.
I've seen some devices that I don't even know where they're from. Do you
Okay,
understand now?
so
So
my opinion of technology, and I love the movie. Have you seen Wakanda Forever?
you said?
Have you seen Wakanda Forever, the movie?
Yes, yes, I've seen it. I've
Yeah,
seen it.
okay. The Black Panther movie and Wakanda Forever is a fantastic way of demonstrating technology. And I think about technology when I watch these movies. I also think about the potential of Africa, and I think of Nigeria as Wakanda. Actually, I believe that I don't know if you've got vibranium yet, but I reckon the potential that exists in Nigeria is the same potential as what exists in vibranium when we look at the Marvel universe. So when I think of technology, I think of these movies, and that's because I see in these movies that there is fancy gadgets, looks like magic, right? Yeah, but there's also this intelligence of the person and the te intelligence of the community that is very much woven in together. And so when I think of technology, my belief is actually that the best technology on this planet is actually between our ears.
Yes,
The
no.
human brain, I believe, is the greatest technology that we as individuals possess. But when we have conversations like this and we connect our brains through conversation, that technology is even more powerful. And so I believe that there is no limit to what this technology can achieve because we can, like you said, we can look into the future, we can be proactive, and so I believe, yes, okay, our hands are important. But if I speak with you and I say, okay, your shoulder is sore, well, please place your hand on your right shoulder. I want you to find whether there is a point that feels different to the other side. And then I
Understand.
can teach you how to massage your own shoulder. And anyway, the next question that I need to ask you, because I want your opinion on this.
I hope I've answered your question, the one you asked.
Yeah, I did. You did answer the question very.
And let me add to it. Let me add to it. I feel Nigeria is a great, market for that, for the technological development, despite many challenges with life, challenges with policies. But I feel that if there is a spark, something, that actually makes people, want, that gives them the opportunity to go in that area, I'm
Mm,
very sure that those areas will be developed and,
mm.
people make a great effect out of it. I actually believe in that.
I need to clarify. You said that there are some challenges in Nigeria with relation to policy, and did you say light?
Yeah, in some areas we have to get power generation, ourselves. In some areas, in some other areas, they have more access to, not because we have, but sometimes, we might not have the regular.
Mm.
Do you understand?
I
Yes,
understand what
sometimes
you're
we might not
saying. I
have
mean,
the regular.
like growing up in
So,
Australia, yeah, and living in Australia, I'm very fortunate that we have so much sunshine that it's easy to have enough light. And when we have winter and nighttime, we have consistent electricity at quite affordable electricity, I would say, compared to a global standard. Whereas I think of my wife, she grew up in Denmark and it's very dark in the winter times. In fact, I'm told that there was a period of time in 2020 where over a period of several weeks there was an accumulative total of like some maybe like 10 minutes of sunlight. Like it was a really low amount of light. And
like,
but I mean, Denmark is quite fortunate that they're quite a wealthy country too, so they can afford to provide lamps and electricity and whatnot. So I think it's important that we consider access to lighting and therefore access to electricity when we consider how we can provide physiotherapy.
yeah, many people consider the option of solar, which is very much available in Nigeria. We
Mm,
have a lot of companies, providing the services. The solar gives an uninterrupted power, you know,
okay. With a battery.
supply. With the battery, with the inverter, you have
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
solar.
you gotta have the inverter
Yeah,
and the battery. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Great.
So that gives, the access, although you may also rely on the public power,
Hmm.
for, a period of time. Like, if, for example, maybe out of the 24 hours, you can have maybe, like, say, 15, sometimes 10, depending on the area. Do you
10 to
understand?
15
Although,
hours per day is
yeah,
reliable
yeah,
on the
yeah.
public system.
And now switch to the solar. Like where I work now, we have the solar power, trying to power some areas
Yeah.
of where I work. So once there is no light,
Okay.
we can
Okay.
use solar to power some of the classrooms, some of, so that we can
Okay.
have access to, yeah.
I,
But that is not my role. That is just
yeah. Yeah,
government
but
comes
it's
for you when
important.
you
Like
have,
we've
making them
provided.
look like,
I'm sorry, Awotipe. it isn't our role, that's true, but physiotherapists, we need to be mindful of this infrastructure and these resources. For example,
Yeah.
when the electricity was unavailable to exercise thoughts in Lilydale because there was some big storms and the trees were blown over by the wind and they knocked down the power lines and we didn't have electricity for I mean some people didn't have electricity for many weeks. um, we were able to continue providing physiotherapy services because we have a building that that has the sun come in. Yeah. Yeah. So we
Okay.
didn't have any electricity, but
And at all, you just have an alternate. Okay.
we had enough
Just
sunlight coming
sunshine.
into the window.
And that was just enough. I think that's something. That's something that I really need to know more about that.
Yeah. Well,
That's actually
if your university had bigger windows and windows in every room, you could continue to teach your students without electricity.
without electricity. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely.
And this is sometimes we go outside and we provide physiotherapy outside. We did that for one or two clients during COVID because these clients were very anxious about being inside with other people because they did not want to be infected with COVID. So we did the consultation outside. Um, the next question for you, Wotepe, is you mentioned obesity and sedentary lifestyles. You said the machine is doing the work and now the human body is not doing the work. Um, what do you see as the role of physiotherapists in addressing obesity?
Um, just like what we said when we started the conversation, there's a lot of advocacy that needs to be done. Now, the clinical role, I think, does not really give you that opportunity, just like what you're doing.
Mm,
Many clinical specialists are in the hospital.
mm,
They're busy with the patients,
mm.
they're busy with some other things. I think physiotherapy educators around the world needs to wake up to the challenge of trying to find that little space,
Mm,
where they can tell people what to do, they can give people an idea,
mm.
they can give people, like if, for example, just like what I said about policy, the government can say, okay, we're going to have adult race. We're going
Yeah.
to have, like there was a time we had to, I think the government had to incorporate, we call it sport, is it sport day in our
Yeah.
secondary schools,
Yeah. Yeah. Sport day. Yeah.
whereby, yes, everybody comes together, there's running, there's
Yes.
jumping,
Yeah.
to create the idea of you
Being
know
physically active.
yes, active
Yeah.
in kids. Now
Yes.
let me say this. Let me also say this about the providing the services. Some
Mm.
feel that that is not their role. Their role is just to provide treatment. Their role is just to provide. Like, give for example, if I'm a
What's your
doctor,
opinion? Do you believe it is our role to mention to
I
someone
think
that they're being overweight?
I think physiotherapist needs to go beyond the treatment where you have, myself, I do a lot of work on myself because I'm on the outside.
Mm,
If I'm not very careful about my weight too, I'm going to
mm.
fall because there's nobody who is going to tell you that this is what you have to achieve. By the time you see some of the consequences, you have
Yes.
increased blood pressure, you have hyperlipidemia, you have this, you have a headache.
Yes. Yes.
Nobody needs to tell you. So everybody needs to take the bull by the horn. What you're doing is actually very great. You might not have many people thinking like this. You might just have few people providing the services and giving the right information, just like what you said.
Mm,
A lot of content are online,
mm,
having
mm.
about 10 million views.
Well,
And
in my opinion,
when
and we have junior physiotherapists, so these are in their first couple of years after graduating from university, and I encourage them to have this conversation with clients if they are meeting someone who is obese or overweight, and we begin to think that the extra weight on their body is contributing towards their injury, that we have a responsibility to help this person. And we have a responsibility to say to this person, the most effective thing you could do to help your knee or your hip or your spine or your elbow, because we know that the joint in the elbow, it actually will get older faster when someone is
Yeah.
overweight compared to when someone is a healthy weight. So we know metabolically there is an aging process, not just mechanically. It's not just the physical load on the body, it's the way the cells get older faster. We have a responsibility to provide this education because we know this. And as you said, knowledge is power. We have to give this power to our clients. And if we're concerned that they might be offended, then okay, we have to present it in a very gentle way. But sometimes we need to remind ourselves that if we do not mention to someone that they are overweight and obese and that that extra weight is contributing towards their pain or injury, we have to accept the fact that we are depriving them of an opportunity to improve their health. And
I
so
agree.
we have to. And I mean, in terms of you mentioned sedentary lifestyles because technology makes it easier to be lazy. If you
It's
have
one of the
technology like this, it encourages you to be active. For example, you can see I have exercise rings here. Oh, now it's encouraging me to reduce my stress. Maybe it thinks I'm stressed right now. Um, the last question I have to ask for you, Awotipe, and then we can just talk however much we want to talk further. But the last question I have to ask you is about Nigeria. You said that we have to be proactive in looking after our communities, and we have to look into the future to anticipate the best way of looking after our communities. So when you look into the future of Nigeria, predicted to have the second largest population in the world. We know there's a great potential in Nigeria. And I want to know from you, what do you think are going to be the biggest problems that physiotherapists are going to be helping people to solve in Nigeria? For example, you might say it's going to be lower back pain. You might say it's going to be obesity. You might say a different problem. What is the biggest problem? Maybe it's people injuring themselves because they've fallen off roofs installing solar panels. What is the biggest problem, or what are the biggest problems that Nigerian physiotherapists will be helping people to solve in Nigeria in the future?
All right, thank you for your question. I think without a doubt, high blood pressure, leading to stroke or leading to CVD, is
That's
one of the great,
cardiovascular disease, is it?
yeah.
Yep.
I said high blood pressure, which may metamorphose, have the metamorphosis
Mm.
into CVD or CVA, as the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. There are lots of people with high blood pressure. And if
In
you look at
Nigeria today, or are you thinking of in Nigeria in the future?
talking about today, now
Mm.
talking about the future, just like what we've said, sedentary lifestyle is also going to be one of the contributing. Now, when you said something the other time, I liked it. When you said, we have to, come up against this. You have the technology, you have this, you have that.
Mm.
Actually, I agree with you, but this is the catch. When you replace, some of the things we do with some other things. Like, let me give you an example.
Mm.
Now, you're looking at your watch and it's telling you you're stressed. What if you
Yeah.
don't have? What if you don't have the watch? Who tells you? Nobody does. You don't even know yourself. Although that
Mm.
gives you, like a reminder. I've
Mm.
been with someone before that the person fell down. The watch said, I think you might have maybe a fall, or probably you might need
Yeah.
BP. I said, ah.
Yeah.
So that's just one of the biggest challenge. Hypertension,
Mm.
sedentary lifestyle is
Yeah.
actually very big. Now, when you have this trend and it's not checked, it's not going to just affect the population. It's going
Mm.
to also affect the physiotherapists because you now have more people to manage. You have, you
Mm.
know, more people with long-term disability.
Right, right.
You know, I've had a lot of,
And we know if
patients.
someone has bad cardiovascular health, if their blood flow is not good around their body because they have atherosclerosis or hypertension, we know that the flow of nutrients through their body, through their fingers, through their elbows, through their knees, through all of their muscles is less and is not it's not as healthy. So if we're going to improve the physical health of the joints and the muscles and the kind of organs that we focus on as physiotherapists, we have to have good blood flow. And the only way to get good blood flow is to have a good VO2 max, to have a good blood pressure, not too high, not too low. And I I asked my watch to remind me to be relaxed every few hours. So it's not that my watch thinks that I'm stressed, but I like your question. You said if the watch doesn't tell the person, who will tell the person? And maybe it's the physiotherapist. Maybe it's the physiotherapist that says, "Have you measured your heart health recently?" And one way that a physiotherapist can measure the health of a person's heart, this is actually one of my favorite research studies. I have a lot of favorite research studies, but this is one of the top. This research study, it measured the risk of cardiovascular disease. So it measured the risk of heart attack and other cardiovascular diseases. And it predicted with very high accuracy, it predicted the number of cardiovascular diseases and cardiovascular events by not measuring blood pressure. We put the device on the arm and we inflate the machine. Yeah, yeah. But it actually measured the strength of their grip, the strength of their hands. And it found that the strength of someone's hands is actually a better predictor of cardiovascular health compared to blood pressure.
Yeah.
And we can easily measure the strength of someone's hands. It's important that when we measure it, we don't say that it's the same. Let's say that you get a score of 60 kilograms strength, and I get a score of 50 kilograms. But if I am overweight and you are healthy weight, there's a different power to weight ratio. Or if
Yeah.
you are a child and I am a very old person, there's a different power to weight ratio. So the way to do the research best is you need to measure the strength and then you need to divide it by the body weight. So it's a power to weight ratio. The most cost-effective way of doing this, I believe, is to have something that you can hang from, like monkey bars or just a pull-up bar or something, and then you just hang. And the longer you can hang from, the stronger, the better your power to weight ratio. So anyway, I think I interrupted you when you were talking about cardiovascular health and how physiotherapists can help people with cardiovascular health.
I feel the cardiovascular health is like once it's down, it's like taking the life out of the person. Once it's down, you've literally taken everything from the person. Because once it's down, the brain does not get enough supply and the body is shut down. I've seen a lot of stroke patients, struggle, trying to get better. And what comes to my mind is what you're doing right now, giving the access, giving the information, especially the right information. People in the disability zone and trying to provide treatment is way expensive than provide, especially in this part of the world whereby most people have the low and middle income countries. In Australia, you can afford to spend maybe $500 or more on treatment, or but here people
Do you think
may
people in
not
Australia can afford to spend $500?
depend. I don't
Okay,
really know.
I have a surprise for you, Awotipe. Yeah, no, listen to me, please, because 25% of Australians, 25, they have less than $1,000 in their bank account.
vacant. That's serious.
If I'm one of these 25%, that's one in every four Australians. If I'm one of these Australians and I have the opportunity to spend $500 on my health when I only have $1,000 in my bank account, I think I'm probably not going to spend that on my health.
That's why it's preferable to have preventive approach to management, preventive approach to treatment,
Yes.
to, it's cheaper. You can, I was telling my wife yesterday that if you expose your hair to external objects, you might have an infection. She said she's just hearing for the first time. So
Mm,
information is actually very key. And
mm,
I think we need to also, what I'll do, let me just say this, or maybe
mm,
I should just answer the question. So maybe in AOB, we can talk about it. What I think we can do is to create a bigger forum, than this,
mm,
where you have, maybe like 20, maybe like 50, especially from different countries. Although we can have multiple participants or
mm.
physiotherapists, like I can help you do that, have a lot of contacts, both in and outside the country,
Yes.
whereby I can send them an invitation where they also be part of the discussion. And by the time we have that, we can project it, on a global scale. So everybody gives an insight into what are the things or what are the projections
Yes.
of physiotherapy into the future.
Fantastic.
Why,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What do you think should be the next country? I mean, we're talking about Nigeria today. We talked a little bit about Australia. Who should be the next country?
Yes, we may, like, if, for example, UK is at the center point now, we might, get people from the UK,
Hmm.
you can also interview one or two people there, especially in categories of those who migrated, those that are there as physiotherapists
Ah,
and those who migrated, because they're going to have completely different view.
yeah,
You
of
know,
course.
they're going to be worlds apart. You know, so and you get their opinions from different
Yeah.
sides. You also need to get, like, if, for example, I say something about cardiovascular diseases in Africa or in
Yes.
Nigeria, if you sample some other opinions from another African countries, it might be different, it might not be the same. So
Well,
that is all
yeah.
very important. Yeah.
I have to say, cardiovascular disease is the number one reason for people dying in Australia. And I think on a global scale, it's within the top one or two, maybe top three causes of death globally. So it's definitely worthwhile talking about. And if you have a contact in the UK, someone who's migrated from Nigeria to the UK, or someone who just grew up in the UK, I would love to speak with them as part of World's Best Physio. And I I've run out of questions. Awotipe? No, Awotipe. Do you have any questions for me?
My question is, how how does physiotherapists, in Australia view, you know, some other counterparts in terms of
Mm,
information, in proficiency?
yeah.
Because I feel that, sometimes maybe based on location or based on personality, people look at you like, I hope you're able to provide, these services. I feel
Mm.
that um, maybe I should allow answer the question. Let me answer the
No, no,
question
I
for you.
understand. I understand the question. So, how do Australian
Yeah,
people
sorry.
perceive the physiotherapists that have been trained in Nigeria, or is it more how do Australian physiotherapists perceive Nigerian physiotherapists?
It might not just be Nigerian physiotherapists, just internationally trained, because I
Ah.
discovered that Australian people have preference for those that are trained in Australia. When you're trained, when you are trained in New Zealand, oh, I think you're good. You're good to go. Because
Yeah.
treatment transcends location, transcends,
Mm.
transcends tribe, transcends,
Yeah.
many things.
Yeah. It would depend on which Australian you are asking the question to. If you're asking this Australian, I would say that there are some important things when I am receiving physiotherapy. Number one, I need to like the other person. Yeah, I need to get along well, have a good rapport with the other person. Number two, I need to be able to communicate with the other person. Number three, I would say, is that this person can help me with the problem that I would like help with. And actually, if you ask every other Australian, they would agree with these three things. I know that there is some research actually that says that lots of Australians would agree with these priorities, but some of the Australians they might assume or think very quickly that I cannot understand what this person is saying, or or they might think, this person is from Nigeria. They don't understand Australian football, for example. I mean, do you know Australian football?
No, no. Although I've seen, one or two, looks more like I think rugby is
Yeah, it's
something
not
close.
rugby. No, no, no. Careful, careful, careful. You will offend a lot of people if you say Australian football is like rugby. So I grew up in Victoria. We play a lot of Australian football in Victoria, and if I have an injury from playing Australian football, I would want a physiotherapist who understands Australian football and can help me to get back to training and get back to competition. So in this way, I hope I've answered your question that these would be the priorities for me and these would be the priorities for Australian people. And sometimes, go for
What
it.
you just answered now. I was in Lagos at the time. I worked in Lagos and as a physiotherapist in a private clinic. And there was a time we had a patient who played polo. I've never seen polo played in my life. Now, when I was to manage the patient, he was just like what you said. He was sentimental. Like, oh, okay, have you ever managed a polo patient? I said,
Yeah,
no. You know what I have? I have one with my shoulder, like somebody who plays tennis.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, tennis is not really common here, although we have some people who play them, developing
yes,
the sport and everything. But we don't have a lot of people. But we
no,
have people. I've managed a lot of patients with shoulder dislocation,
yes,
rehabilitation, not at the acute
but
stage.
not polo.
Now, yes. So when they came, and the man said, "Have you managed a polo patient?" I said, "No." He said, "Are you sure you're gonna manage me?" I said, "Yes." And I did. Like when I did, and he got better. Do you understand? I gave him a shoulder support. I
Yeah,
also gave him rehabilitation, strengthening
yes.
exercises, and the like. When he got better, he brought three of his friends who play polo. And I've never managed a patient with polo. I play polo. So I think I
So now
think
you
part
have
of
four patients that play polo.
I think this is what you need to also do when you make your global campaign. You should also enlighten people that it is not just when you have somebody who understands what you do. It is
Mm,
somebody who has the proficiency. Like, for example, let me say this. What if you've had a physiotherapist manage you and you get better and he
mm.
never heard about Australian football? And you have better outcomes. You're gonna like, that's why you said you're gonna
Yeah,
like the patient, you're gonna like the physiotherapist more,
yeah,
even than somebody you know.
yeah.
Treatment are not supposed to be done with sentiments from either the patient or the physiotherapist.
No
Yes,
sentiment.
part of the proficiency
Yeah,
training or part of the training
yeah,
we
yeah,
give the
yeah.
student that you are not supposed to treat a patient because he's white. The first time I saw a white patient, the patient brought the wife. That sorry, if anything is wrong with me, kindly shout. I was like, you
Oh,
know, and it was just having minor neck pain. I
yeah,
think he
yeah,
slept
yeah, 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 yeah.
at the neck, cervical region. So after managing the pain, the man said, please, you need to be seeing me all the time. I said, but you said I should not treat you. So it's very good that we don't put sentiment in our treatment. We don't put sentiment in our, you know, the way we view others. You can give them the opportunity. That's why I like the provisional, the limited registration, where it
Mhm.
gives opportunity. Okay, let's see what you can do. You
And this is
understand how
something that I believe that artificial intelligence could help with because some people are going to think of artificial intelligence as knowing everything. It knows polo, it knows Australian football, it knows shoulders and ankles and hips. And and I agree that we as physiotherapists we should not be sentimental, but I believe that we always will be. And we will always, as human beings, we will always be sentimental and we will prefer um, we will prefer an expert over someone who is not an expert. For example, if I would like to ask a question about lumbar range of motion assessment with the use of Microsoft Xbox Kinect, then I will be asking you because you did your master's research on this. And
Thank you so
I
much.
hope that any physiotherapist or physiotherapy student listening to this conversation, once it's made available, will educate themselves in polo and will educate themselves in Australian football and will educate themselves in all these different ways in which we move the human body and which we live life. Educate yourself on what does it mean to carry water on your shoulder when you have to go collect water and bring it back to your home. Educate yourself on what does it feel like to sit at a desk for 10 hours a day, 5 days a week in an office, because this is the way people live their lives. And if we can understand how that feels as physiotherapists, then we will be able to help them better.
All right. I think I agree with you.
You think you
I
agree?
think
I hope you don't.
I do. I agree with you.
Would you like to talk about anything more, or do you have another question?
No, I think you've answered most of my questions for now. When I have more questions, you know, the only thing I also like to add is the aged care. In
The aged
Africa,
care.
yeah,
Okay.
aged care. In Africa, we have little concentration in that area.
Mm,
Individuals manage their own parents, although they have some centers whereby you can take your parents,
mm,
older
mm,
adults,
mm.
but unlike the European countries where they
Yes.
have specialized homes, they have, different, services. That's why I said something about community physiotherapy,
Yes. Yes.
whereby all these people can be, you can see them in their homes, you can provide services. So
Yes.
I think
Yes.
it's something
What
that
do you believe is the best strategy for improving the
yes,
physical
it's
health
actually the
of
right
older
thing,
people?
but we have little concentration in that area here. Most people here believes you have a problem, you come to the hospital.
Mm,
Um, only the only few have that, penetration into some of
mm.
this community whereby instead of taking the treatment from the hospital, you can actually provide these services, in people's homes, and they get better and you get paid for it. And you even have more people, engaging more people and
Yes.
having a healthier population.
Yes.
In Japan, for example, they give very good concentration to their older adults. They give them, excellent care. So I
Yes.
think it's something we should also advocate apart from just advocating, because if you
Mm,
have an older adult who has, problem with dementia, who could not even remember,
mm.
one or two things, maybe to take his meds or something, a lot of things can go wrong. So these are also some areas that you may touch,
Yeah.
in the next.
This is very much part of World's Best Physio because we know that not just in Nigeria and Japan and Australia, but in many countries, our populations are getting older. With every year, our populations are getting older, and we need to stay healthy and stay physically fit as we get older. I can only give you my opinion about what the best solution is. I think of my grandparents. All four of my grandparents, so my father's parents and my mother's parents, they have all moved on from this life into the next, and all of them fell over. They would
Mm,
fall to the ground unexpectedly, and this resulted in injuries. And I know in Australia and also in Denmark, the number one reason for going to hospital is the number one reason for going to hospital with an injury is falling over. And I don't know if this is the same in Nigeria, but maybe it is. And partly this is because the older population, they believe that the hospital is the best place to go because the hospital will provide free healthcare in most
mm,
cases. No?
No, no. I feel the culture of the people about healthcare is also very important.
Ah,
Although older adults have that, what you just said now, whereby they want to go to the hospital because they believe that's where the care can be.
mm,
But just like what you said, if someone had been monitoring,
mm,
those older adults, somebody has come into their homes and given them advice, giving them
yes,
a guidance on how to
yes,
use these aids and some of these devices
yes,
that enable their, gait pattern, or
yes,
probably, ambulation
yeah.
around the home. They may not have fallen, And another thing I see about um, Australia is because they have most of their buildings come with steps and stairs. As we have older adults,
Yeah.
those things may not be appropriate for them. I managed a patient recently,
Ooh,
had to
I
advise
disagree.
the
I disagree. My concern is that people do not use stairs.
says, how can
And
you tell someone who is 100 years who does not even remember to use or not to use?
okay, so one example. So in Lilydale, there is a class of older people. They do exercise together every week. And the number of people in this class, it grew so quickly that we needed to move them from one room into a larger room. And the larger room, it was upstairs. And we said to these older people, we're going to move the room that you do your exercise to a larger room so that you can all continue coming every week. And they said, we cannot go up the stairs. And we said, okay,
I
your first exercise is to try the stairs. And after 1 or 2 or 3 weeks, everyone could go up the stairs and could do the exercise
because there
up
was
the stairs.
they were being monitored.
They were being
You were
monitored.
there, or maybe therapists were there. So
They were,
if they
yeah.
are going to do, we might not really rule out the design of the home, but we need more people to manage, older adults in
Mhm.
such yeah. So I,
My
I, I
my solution, and so what I recommended for my grandparents, and something that I have created in Lilydale, we have a free class. It's called a falls and balance class because falls and balance is these are things that are very important to older people. And it is they don't have to pay. They always ask us, is it actually free? Yes, it's actually free. And it's in a local park. So everyone can see it and everyone can access it. We have between 20 and 40 people every week, and they're all older people. If everyone in that class was to attend one session, we would probably have 60 people. And I think more, actually, maybe more than 60 people. And every session that I lead this class, and every time one of our students or one of our practitioners leads the class, I want to see that they go onto the ground and they come off of the ground with minimal help. If they need a little bit of help, that's okay. But my preference is that they learn to get onto and off of the ground by themselves with minimal or no help. And maybe the help is just instructions and information and education. This is the best way of doing it. This is the easiest way of getting down and getting up. Maybe it's about reassuring them that it's good to practice this and that it's safer to practice it than it is to not practice it. Because if they don't practice it, their risk of falling is higher, their risk of injury is higher, their risk of going to hospital is higher. If they practice it, their fear of falling over is less, and their risk of falling over is less. So teaching people how to get onto and off of the ground. There was a 2020 research study that proved that when you teach people to get onto and off of the ground, it reduces their fear of falling and reduces their risk of falling. And it's very simple intervention. You just teach them to go down and teach them to come back up. It's really straightforward. So when you ask about aged care, I would say the single most impactful thing that physiotherapists could do would be to teach everyone to get onto and off of the ground if they are worried or they are unable, or it's difficult for them to get onto and off the ground. The other thing I would say is your idea about cardiovascular disease. You said cardiovascular disease is a big problem for Nigeria and for the globe. I agree, and this is very important for older people. They need to get sweaty. They need to do huffy puffy exercise.
They need to get moving.
They need to get moving. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Once you relax the muscles, it doesn't get all the strength, then, a lot of other, complications come in. But once you get the muscles moving, even if it's
mm,
just minimal movement, you
mm,
can achieve a lot. A lot can be
I
achieved.
agree. It feels like a natural time to say thank you very much,
Thank you. Thank you
Awotipe,
so much.
for today's
Yeah,
conversation.
thank you, Sam.
I hope you
Thank
enjoyed it as much as I did, and
yeah.
I'm looking forward to speaking again.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thanks for
I'm
your time.
oh no, it was we'll talk again, and thank you indeed.
All right. Thank you. Bye.